Hello and welcome along to Nexia New Zealand's latest webinar. My name is Maggie Jaques. I'm the Tax Director here at Nexia New Zealand, and I'm joined today by Brylie Gray, an Associate with our Business Advisory team. Today we're focusing on a topic that many businesses are likely to be thinking about with life returning to normal this week. Well, at least our new normal anyway. We're no longer in lockdown and we're not in the initial cash flow crisis crunch and panic mode that marked the beginning of life at level 4, but instead we're dealing with instead of dealing with the initial shock and response, many businesses are moving into the question of what next. And I suppose, that question about what next, we've got a thought of the day up there, which is smooth seas don't make for skillful sailors. And, we acknowledge and we recognise that this is a really challenging time for business and also for our community as a whole. Lots of people are struggling and trying to make sense of it. But, with every challenge is a silver lining, and the impact of this crisis will provide valuable learnings and an opportunity to evolve your business. And, if you want to put an example, look at the way that a lot of businesses have adapted and changed the way that they work during the lockdown period. All of a sudden we've seen people working from home, working remotely, Zoom meetings, life carrying on, not as normal, but, carrying on. And it's amazing to see how quickly that we've all adapted. So today we're going to be talking about the elements of, business recovery planning and getting through that, addressing that what's next question. And the topics that we're going to be looking at are closing the disconnect, the need to reinvent, your budget, opportunities, vulnerabilities and critical challenges, identifying and managing risks, goals and actions, pulling together everything as a complete package at the end and making some sense of that, and your next steps along with our support. Now, before we get stuck into that, I just wanted to just put out the usual disclaimer that we're very famous for in our industry, which is that this webinar is not intended to provide insolvency expertise. There are very strict rules and regulations around solvency, some of which have been amended to account for the impacts of COVID-19. However, if your business is not able to trade as a result of solvency or bank finance issues, please do contact us. We have an experienced team of insolvency specialists who are more than happy to assist and provide you with that specialist expertise and knowledge that you'll be requiring at this time. So closing the disconnect. So before we get started, we just wanted to share some thoughts about how we can stay better connected at this time. And I'm not talking about how we can be better connected with technology and things like the webinars that we're doing right now and online meetings, although these things are incredibly important. I'm coming from the perspective of how we can work together more effectively now and in the future, and where your expertise can be combined with ours to create outcomes that wouldn't be possible by working alone and trying to do it all yourself. In our view, there's never been a more important time to create and connect with a team of people who can help out at this time. People such as your banker, your legal and HR advisors and your accountants, so that together you can come up with a better plan. And hopefully together you can take some of the worry and the noise out of the picture. So at Nexia, we have a core purpose of working alongside our clients to help them to succeed and to grow, which is part of the reason why we're running this webinar. This should be just the beginning of how we can work even better together. So feel free to take lots of notes and don't be shy to get in contact with us with any questions that you've got. We're here to help and we want to help you to move forward too. So looking at the need to innovate. During times of adversity, we're often forced to think outside the square and to reinvent the way that we work or behave. And I think this COVID-19 crisis and the lockdown, it's been very stark, this requirement in terms of needing to innovate and to change things. And we see 4 main opportunities for you to reinvent your business. The first opportunity is to innovate. Now, the Oxford Dictionary, to get back technical, defines innovation as the introduction of new things, new ideas, or ways of doing something. And a great example that we've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic is a company that changed from selling travel pillows, which clearly not many people are traveling at the moment, to hair clippers. So using the same technology, the same setup, and adjusting, pivoting their business from something that's no longer in demand, at least in the short term, to something that will be in demand. And I think we've all seen the poor hair salons completely overrun at the moment. And in this sense, innovation is doing something completely different. An example for your business might be to introduce a new product line or a new service, or come up with a different way of delivering your goods or services. The second way to reinvent is to re-engineer. So the Cambridge Dictionary defines re-engineer as to change and improve the design of a product or system. In other words, use what you've already got to produce something completely different. And an example that we've seen of re-engineering in New Zealand is New Zealand beer companies looking at what their plant can make and moving from producing beer to creating their own hand sanitizer. So I'm sure most of us remember the headlines that you couldn't get hand sanitizer for love nor money, particularly in the early part of the lockdown, because it was completely sold out. So this is a great example of a New Zealand business seeing that opportunity and re-engineering in order to adjust their business to move forward. And just a note there that this is not the same as US residents asking if it's safe to drink disinfectant to cure the coronavirus. Hopefully we're all far too clever to take that advice seriously. And another example of re-engineering is the 7 Formula One teams who took up the NHS challenge in the UK to make ventilators. So we've seen it all around the world, this re-engineering. And I suppose these are great stories and great things to think about. Well, how could that apply to my business? What could work? What am I doing that could be readjusted to meet the current, the changes in the economy? The third way to reinvent your business is to adapt or change the way that you deliver products or services. And remember the biological definition of adaptation, which is the process by which a species becomes fitted to its environment. In other words, if we can take the new normal or a new environment that we find ourselves in, how can we change to suit that environment better? And that is a great question in the current climate. A great example is a local beauty therapy business that emailed their client base offering a free online skin consultation if they buy a product, as well as new bundles of product, including full-size products and multiple samples marketed as the home facial. That business was unable to offer beauty therapy in the traditional way during the lockdown, and so faced potentially, zero income during that period. And then instead of accepting that, they decided to adapt and produce an online solution, which was successful. So, that's a great third way of reinventing your business, a great point there. So the fourth way, So we know that we can reinvent in 4 ways, beg your pardon, which is to innovate, to re-engineer, adaptation, and now number 4 is to widen your lane. And what we mean by widening your lane is to broaden your product or service offering. And a great example is the cafe who broadens their offering from offering purely cabinet food and coffee to include new ready-made meals, boxed treats, and to selling wholesale ingredients and even bundles with recipes for making their signature treats. And possibly we're moving out of this phase now in terms of the cafe, but I certainly know that if I'd been able to pop around to order online from my local cafe my favourite treats, I would have definitely been taking that up during lockdown, and I'm sure that lots of other people would have been too. So with these 4 ideas in mind, innovation, re-engineering, adaptation, or broadening your offering, what can you do in your business? And this is what business recovery planning is all about. And this is what we're here to talk to you about today. I'm now going to hand over to Brylie. Brylie has significant experience in working alongside businesses that are experiencing growth and change. Never a greater skill for today's current environment. She has a knack for cutting through the noise to helping businesses focus on what's really important to move forward. Brylie, welcome.
Thanks, Maggie. Hi, everyone. There's a natural order in which to reinvent your business. And there's been a lot of discussions around the media and in our businesses about business continuity planning. And business recovery planning is the next step in that sequence. It's to provide you confidence and motivation to continue going forward with your business and give you clarity of what things you need to be focusing on. First and foremost, though, as a business owner, you must take care of yourself. The business is there to serve you, not the other way around. You should not be a slave to your business. So step one is going to be putting on your shareholder or owner hat. Define what it is that you need from your business. Can you make savings in your personal spending to reduce the cash flow strain on your business? No doubt you've made some savings during lockdown. Can any of these savings continue? Now, I know saying that some owners had to reinvest any personal savings they had into their businesses to keep functioning. Updating your personal budget is best done using a template in Excel, so you don't miss any expenses. An easy way to do this is just looking at your bank statements online and see what you typically spend or get in a month. Consider your income. You might get rental income, interest, dividends, payments from the company, anything like that. And consider any expenses you also have for yourself, your family, insurance, debt repayments, all of those things. And then you also need to be realistic too about what your spending has looked like over the last month or so during lockdown. Our spending opportunities were very limited, so you may need to go back a couple of months before that to really review what it is that you normally would need out of your business. Once you've done your personal budget, you can build up your revised business budget. Many of you may have done this already for the year coming up, or you were in the throes of doing it when the lockdown hit. This is likely to have significantly changed now. We recommend what we call a bottom-up process, where you start with the increase in cash you want to achieve for the year. It's important to start here, as many businesses have found they didn't have that sufficient war chest of cash going into the lockdown. Now, before you think I'm crazy about talking about a pot of cash at the end of the year, consider the model. You may need to do it a couple of times. You might want to do a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and a break-even scenario. A war chest of cash may be a future goal, while right now it may actually be just to pay the debts that are due and keep the business afloat. The idea of a war chest is in a situation, as we're seeing overseas, where communities have opened back up and are having further outbreaks and may need to go back into lockdown phases. Hopefully that doesn't happen in New Zealand, of course, but the idea of this is that it would be best to have that there if it does. So I'll quickly walk you through this slide, as I said, starting from the bottom, working up. So the bottom number, as I said, would be depending on if you're best case, worst case, or nil if you're doing break even. The other cash movements are areas where you may be able to free up other cash. That might be by reducing debtors, reducing your stock, or your work in progress levels, or maybe even negotiating better terms with your suppliers. The loan principal. You need to allow for principal repayments on any existing loans or finance that you have. Also in this area, you need to consider if you are going to go to the bank for further finance and what those repayments may look like. Feel free to get in touch with one of us or with your bank to find out what those repayments might be if you're considering this. Next one is your asset purchases and sales. There might be new assets you need or obsolete ones that you can sell, so have a look at that. The next one there, your drawings, that's looking at what we talked about before, your personal budget. What is it you need out of your business to continue for yourself? That should lead you to your net profit after tax, adding or subtracting these items to get you to that target profit. And then you will look at the tax of that required to the profit before. That tax rate will, of course, depend on if you're a company or you are a sole trader. Then you want to look at your overheads to see if there's any savings that can be made here. Now, I say this with a slight amount of hesitation, as one of the things in our industry that we say is you can spend a long time looking at overheads and only save a few dollars. It's really in your trading account and above your gross profit that you can make your biggest moves. But if it's changing your internet provider to someone else that's going to save you a little bit, absolutely, there's no harm in doing that. But don't spend a lot of your time probably in this area. Just see if there's immediate changes you can make. You'll now have a gross profit needed, and you'll use your desired gross profit percentage, which will derive your sales level required. Now, at this point, you really need to consider whether that sales level is achievable. You may want to reach out to your Nexia advisor, whoever your business advisor is, and talk to them about the current environment, as it's new territory for all of us. Many advisors have been working closely with their clients, so they may have some insights into what others are experiencing that may benefit you as well. Ideally, from here, you will take this and do a more detailed cash flow forecast on a month-by-month basis, so you are able to track your progress throughout the year.
And Brylie, just to confirm, if we've got clients that are sitting here thinking, this all sounds a bit too hard, is this something that we can step through, you know, as Nexia advisors? Can we step through this with our clients?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is our accountant jargon a little bit, and it's what we do day in, day out, so we can definitely help clients with any questions that they have in working through this process. Yeah, so you'll see there that new slide. We're looking at what to measure and how now. This is where having real-time and digital reports or numbers can be really useful. For example, if you've identified in your previous, in the previous slide that your sales for the year needed to be, say, $500,000, sorry, that equates to about $10.5 thousand per week if the business is open 48 weeks per year. Getting muddled here, sorry guys. You'll want to have a system for recording how we're going against that target. Likewise, if you have debtor term days of 7 and your debtors are currently taking 41 days to pay you on average, you want to measure that that number is going to be improving. We strongly recommend you measure no more than 5 of your most important numbers. We call these key performance indicators. I'm sure you've heard that before, KPIs. These are the drivers of your business. Some examples are daily or weekly sales, gross profit by product or service, debtor days, or increase and decrease in cash for the month. Ideally, in the situation that we are in post-lockdown, you want to be focusing on lead indicators rather than lag indicators. That is so you're in a better position to adapt and change quickly if things are not going to plan. An example of a lead indicator is the number of quotes a business receives and knowing their conversion rate generally into sales. So you can track whether you're going to hit those sales targets ahead of time. A lag indicator is the debtor days, as that's an output measure that is after the fact, so you're already a step behind in some sense. So once you have your KPIs and the budget, it's important that you have these numbers loaded into a monthly reporting system so you can track your actual results against the budget. We can help you with the most appropriate technology for your business, and it may be that you are still on a manual system. Now might be the time, although it seems strange to spend money, it might be beneficial for you to go onto a cloud software at this point in time, and a staff member, or whether it be yourself that normally prepares those reports, can be better utilised somewhere else in the business. That's the adaptation that we're talking about at the moment.
So, Brylie, just to confirm as well that those key performance indicators, that's something that I mentioned earlier that Brylie's really good with, cutting through the noise. And it's really important that, you spend some time driving home what it is, like what those 5 critical points are, those critical things that drive your business, instead of, getting caught up in noise and things that don't really matter. And that's why, going to see somebody like Brylie or our business advisory team is so important. Because they can really help you drill into what those important factors are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sometimes it is best to have a conversation for us with our clients and for you as the clients with us, where we can take, as Maggie said earlier, the best of both our worlds to get the best result for you as the client. Yeah. So once you have that high level budget that we were talking about and the KPIs, it's time to have a look a bit at the opportunities that exist to achieve that budget. Again, we recommend focusing on no more than 5 opportunities. You might be seeing a trend here. Think of the ideas we talked about earlier to reinvent your business. Opportunities could also be things like working in more of an online way with your team or customers. You may no longer need the same premises if you have people working from home who are productive there, or you may need to redefine the roles of your business. There may be new lines of revenue to pursue or other businesses that you could look to acquire. Other opportunities might be around the adoption of technology or systems to improve your efficiency or online communication. As I mentioned in the previous slide, this could be moving to cloud software if you're not on that, and the ability to have those up-to-date live reports on your business. Take the time to brainstorm all opportunities. Get your senior management team around a table. Do it with others who might have ideas as well. This is a really valuable and empowering exercise to do. You need to leave no stone unturned here. Consider all of your options before throwing the idea away. Of course, the flip side to opportunity is your vulnerabilities. What keeps you awake at night? What are the 5 biggest vulnerabilities in your business right now? These could be things like poor cash flow, a sustained downturn in demand for current products or services, poor debtor management or banking covenants not being met. Naming the vulnerabilities enables you to make a plan to overcome them. Name so you can tame is a great mindset to have. If you turn a blind eye, nothing will improve or change. You do need to be brutally honest in your assessment of vulnerabilities. An overly optimistic plan isn't going to cut it in these times. Once you have identified your 5 biggest opportunities and 5 vulnerabilities, you need to identify 2 to 3 of your most critical challenges. These might be things like deciding whether or not to sell or liquidate part of your business, or establishing an online sales platform, or securing sufficient finance to just get through the next 3 months. These are really hard-hitting questions to face, and we're here to help you get through this. You're not in this alone. There are a lot of clients that are facing these as well. And as I mentioned, Maggie mentioned earlier, we have our insolvency department if you do want to talk to them and get their ideas on where you're at all. We strongly recommend the next thing you do is do a careful analysis of the risks in your business. The best way to do this is to complete a risk register. This looks at the likelihood of each risk and then the consequences for these on your business if they're not mitigated. So we're going to go through the 10 departments of the business and look at some of the things that you might need to consider. The first one is governance. And I know a lot of people hear governance and they think board around a boardroom table, and you're thinking, I'm a sole trader. What we're looking at this is the owners of the business. Are they taking the time to work on the business, not in the business all the time? Is there poor planning? Is there a lack of up-to-date policies? Things like that. The next one there is leadership. Risks here might be around your communication with your staff and your clients, reporting and on-time reporting, and team morale, keeping them motivated and keep going as well. Then you've got your products and services. Risks around lack of adaptation or innovation. You really need to make sure your products and services are relevant in the current environment, and these have changed in some industries. Operational, you're looking at risks around suppliers or maybe supply chain, contracts, or some of your key customers is where you probably want to focus some attention there. The next one's your marketing. Risks here, this is quite a big one at the moment, with poor return on investment or overspending, a lack of digital presence. A lot, as you will have known through the lockdown, has gone to an online platform, and marketing is absolutely a part of that as well. Sales is your next one. The need to adapt to e-commerce or online selling, risks around poor training or possibly overselling to customers at this time. Customers aren't responding well to that at this time. They're already in a cash flow crunch. So the next one's finance, and that's a little bit of what we've gone through through some of the previous slides, looking at the lack of sufficient cash flow, poor finance structure, or poor credit control, debtor management. poor reporting or lack of forecasting ahead and seeing what to report to. Human resources, overspending in this area, but the key one here I'd probably say is poorly managed restructuring. If you do need to go down that avenue, you want to avoid any grievances and do it the right way. So make sure you do talk to someone and get the right advice of the process you need to do. Administration, the key one here is probably the lack of automation around that. And the last one is technology and poor adaptation or software or apps. And we've mentioned that a few times now.
So, yeah, as Brylee's pointed out in terms of the risks that we need to identify and manage, I mean, there sounds like there's a lot there, but, you know, really, we're not saying that it has to be perfect or that you need, you know, 100 pages on each risk. It's just, I think sometimes it helps to go through a systematic process to help you work out, you know, what your sore points are, you know, what are the things that are working really well and what do you need to work on. And, you know, this will look different for different kinds of businesses. So don't think necessarily that this is going to be an overly onerous task if you are, for example, a sole trader. It'll look different for your different businesses. I think the important point is that you're going through a process and that allows you to identify everything that's, you know, all the potential areas there rather than the ones that you're thinking about at night and the ones that are keeping you awake at night.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Maggie. Yeah. So once you've identified your risks, you need to pull everything together into a bit of a cohesive plan with goals, actions, and responsibilities. Your business recovery plan is much more detailed than your normal business plan, in that you get right into the detail of each of those departments that we've just looked at. Goals for this need to be what we refer to as SMART goals and need someone assigned to them that has ownership to drive them. Now, what I mean by SMART goals, I'll just run through that quickly. The S in SMART relates to specific, so describe exactly what needs to be achieved. The M is measurable, include a metric with a target that indicates success. The A is achievable, challenging but realistic in the situation. R is relevant. It's got to align with your overarching plan and vision at the moment as well. T is time frame. There needs to be a deadline for achieving that goal. So these goals and actions should be updated regularly through some form of review process. Initially, you might want to look at doing this even fortnightly. Sometimes we say monthly. It depends on how short-term those goals are, and then move it to monthly and possibly quarterly as it goes forward as we start to get back to that new normal. So when you pull it all together, there's a complete package that we talk about. We've kind of touched on bases all throughout this. So the first thing's your personal budget, your risk register, your business recovery plan, your business cash flow forecast, an updated organisation chart, and a finance application. Now, you don't need to do all of this work at the same time. For example, you may have sufficient cash flow just at the moment that you aren't applying for finance, so you obviously don't need a finance application. Likewise, if you don't have a team, you're not going to need to update an organisation chart. So it's really key that you just find what's really important for you at the moment, and what combination of these that you need and who will do them. So I'm going to run through really quickly what our plan looks like if we were to work with you on our business recovery plan. This is really just to show you that it's more of a 2 to 3 page type document, not a 10-page one that you put in the bottom drawer and don't refer to. We really want this to be something that you can keep checking back to and make sure you're tracking along month by month. So at the start, we do just a little bit of an executive summary, and that's just saying where you are as a business, why we're doing the plan, and the plan to move forward. That business owners section is about your personal spending and what you need from the business, and any new finance that you might need. You'll see down the bottom there as it moves up, yep, you've got that budget. That's everything we started to work through for the break-even analysis or best or worst case scenarios. That's just the end of it there, following on to that next slide. And then the KPIs that we've looked at. So for this example, they've got debtor days, stock days, minimum weekly sales, things to focus on, And on the right, there's the opportunities that they need to focus on. And again, this one will move up a wee bit, and you've got your vulnerabilities and your most critical challenges. So it's really short and sharp and to the point, so that you're not getting lost in the wording.
So it's a nice 2-page summary, cutting through the noise and drilling down to what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that last bit there is going into those departments and what those risks were that we looked at. And from those risks, those are where those goals should come from. And you can see across that it goes to 90 days and the actions, who's doing it and by when. So there's really a plan. Everyone's got ownership and it should run smoothly, fingers crossed. So your next steps. Sorry. Hopefully I haven't overwhelmed you too much with technical detail in this. I get a little bit of it as accounting jargon, and we can break through that a little bit, especially if we meet with you one-on-one. My goal here was just to really share with you what the business recovery planning is all about and how to do it. So your next steps, doing nothing isn't an option in my opinion. We're all entering this crazy period that we don't really know what's happening. It's new ground for us all. It's a new normal, and if you don't change anything, you're not going to change any of the results that you need or want. Remember to always look after yourself first. That's what we say by the oxygen mask. You are the owner. You own the business. The business does not own you. So put yourself first and make sure that you are coping and you're getting the help you need. And then make a plan. Make a plan to get through these times. How are you going to do it? Be really upfront about those vulnerabilities and the challenges. And then focus on what you can do. Really shift that focus away, as we keep saying, get out of the noise that's around you and focus on what you can do and try and achieve that. And of course, we are here to help you every step of the way. So how we can help you, just so I go into that a little bit there's 3 options essentially that we've got up here. There's the business recovery planning session, which it can either be done online or face-to-face with you. There is an in-depth pre-work for you to complete where you do consider the impacts of COVID-19 that's been on your business, on each department of it. And from that, we work with a plan and set some of those goals with you for each department. It will be detailed, but as I say, that 2 to 3 page plan, so it's not going to be pages long, and it's going to be well thought out and give you the best chance for recovery. That second option there is the same thing, but it's also got the finance application, which means it comes also with a cash flow forecast, which you'll need for the application. So all of the same applies for step 1, option 1 to option 2. And the last one there is option 3, that you prepare your own business recovery plan. You may already have one in place. And if you want us to review it and have a bit of a think of if there's anything you may have missed or overlooked or anything like that, we can get in touch, and if we need to meet, or it might be that everything looks really good in there and you're ready to go.
Oh, thanks, Brylie. That was a really insightful summary of the business recovery planning sessions and how we can provide some assistance. And really great to hear that we've got some options around, and I'm sure that lots of businesses will be thinking, starting to think as well about how they might be able to apply this. What type of plan would work for them? What have they got capacity to do? I suppose that probably a few things that clients might be thinking about are, well, I love the idea of a business recovery plan, but I'm just flat out with work right now. I'm trying to catch up. How on earth do I get the capacity to do this work? And what are your thoughts on that, Brylie?
Yeah, absolutely. And people are definitely in that boat. And my direct answer is probably just find the time to do it. This is kind of what we talked about in that governance space. You have to, as an owner, take time out of your business to work on your business. And that's going to be really the key way. Otherwise, there is the very real very real case that the business might not be there. So,
thank you. That's very clear. And I guess the second area that I know a lot of people might be thinking about, particularly we've had essentially 2 months of the country on home detention, and cash flow is pretty tight for a lot of businesses at the moment. And we understand that people may be concerned that they can't afford to do this work. And what are some of the thoughts around that, Brylie, in terms of how we can work with our businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. And spending money does need to be really considered quite strongly at the moment in businesses, and I totally understand that. What I'd probably say is spend money in the right areas, and doing this kind of recovery plan might actually be the difference between having money in the bank in a month's time and not. So I think it's really, really beneficial, and we do have payment options that we can talk through and work with you on. So if you're interested, do get in touch with us and we can go through all the options available.
And I think, I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of advisors, that we would rather see you succeed and work with you than you be too afraid to contact us because of cost. And I think, we'll work with you. I mean, obviously we also have a business to run, but we will work with you to try to help you get through this. This is a time when, as a community, as a business community, we need to pull together and make sure that, as much as we can, that we get through it. Okay, well, just coming up to our parting thoughts now, and I just wanted to say thanks very much for taking the time to attend this webinar. We do appreciate that your time is very valuable right now, and we appreciate that things are starting to heat up for most people and we're trying to recover. However, we hope that we've given you plenty of ideas to think about and some clear options about how we can support you. And before we go, I'd like to share the quote with you on the screen there, which is, "Nothing is so contagious as enthusiasm." And we appreciate it's a tough time, but that is so true. And I think it's it's how you view these times, and they are tough, but this is what builds resilience. This is what builds great character, and this is how we know that we get through the next tough time, because we dealt with this one. And we would say that make a simple plan today. Don't get overwhelmed. Commit to at least 3 actions that you will take as a result of being here today. Write them down. Give each of them to the business owner and a completion date, or an owner of whoever's going to do the task. We appreciate and we get that this is a worrying time for a lot of businesses, but you don't need to worry alone. There's a ton of support out there and more to come, and we are definitely here to support you and help you get through this time. So thanks everybody for your time. Thanks for attending, and please do feel free to get in contact with us. You can get in touch with us by your usual advisors. We've got our email addresses at the start of the slides, and also otherwise just pop onto the Nexia website and put a question or a contact through the Contact Us page. More than happy to help you. Thanks everybody.